7-Eleven here. If you watch my previous videos on this 1987 Ford F150, you'll know that I had starting problems, and I have since pulled the clutch pedal and brake pedal assembly out, and this will fix my key switch starting problems when I get it repaired. This video is a bit different in that I will be putting things back together rather than taking things apart. So probably for now what I will be doing with this assembly is pulling this piece off right here. It it's been wearing on the back side here. I don't know if you're able to see that. I'll pull it up to the camera maybe. Okay, you can see how it is worn. So what I am going to do is pull this piece off right here and order it. And in the meantime, I'm probably going to go ahead and see if I can't put a bolt in here, just so I will have this piece, put a bolt in place of this, just so I will have this piece available. In case I have to wait a long time, I'll put it back together with my repair work. So anyway, I might, while I'm at it, replace the bushings on both sides. You pull that lever off, you want to make sure that you mark it so that it goes back in at the same angle. At this angle, you might have it this way. This way your clutch pedal will be up to where it's supposed to be, the way the factory put it. If you get this off a little bit, your clutch pedal will change its position and relative to the brake pedal, and you may not like it. So I would suggest maybe taking a file and marking a line on top here and then a line on your housing here, and then that way when this the new part pulls up, it will be exactly in line the way it was when it came off. Okay, I'm going to get started. Alright, I was able to remove this shaft. I tried numerous pullers on it, small pullers, and I could get back up under here. What I did is I got out my punch and I tapped on it around the edges like that, and I got it to pull off the shaft this way, of course. Now I'd like you to see that this is splined right here. The inside of this lever, clutch lever, is splined as well, but if I can focus in here, you can see the splines on the inside of this lever. Well, the lever is not normally splined. These splines are made when the lever is pulled upon this shaft right here, and as you can see, they do not go all the way through. Now I marked this shaft with a little file right here on the top and also right here, so I can line it back up the way it was and have the clutch pedal at the required height. Also, you might be able to see now what more of my issues. You can see how this shaft has been worn down. The clutch master cylinder connecting rod that goes onto this shaft is also worn very badly, so I may have to replace that master cylinder if I cannot find the rod separately. I'm going to go ahead and grind these welds off and see if I can't push the shaft back through, and then maybe find a case hardened bolt grade 8 and put it in here with a nut and a lock washer, and then cut it off at the required length, and maybe drill it for a cotter pin to hold the bushing on with. I'm waiting on the bushings, and I'm not real sure how the fit is going to be yet. So that's what I'm going to go do, is grind these welds off and see if I can't push this pin out. This is the progress I'm making so far. It's pretty easy going. I tried to grind it as close to the shaft as I could and spare the shaft, but I was not able to spare it as much as I wanted to. Anyway, it looks like it's splined as well, but I may be mistaken. Oh no, here it is. Okay, yeah, it looks like it's splined as well. Okay, I'm going to finish pulling it out, and maybe I'll see if I can't find a bolt for this. Mic this shaft or something. Okay, here's the little shaft removed. And it's just about that much of a thickness on the threads, if you can call them threads. And the shaft itself is right about hard to get at. The shaft itself is right about there. Okie dokie. Okay, this is a new rod for the new master cylinder, clutch master cylinder that I ended up purchasing. I believe the old one was about shot. So anyway, I thought I was going to go ahead and use this, but I could not get the part that fits the arm here. I could not get a new arm that this would slide over. So I ended up doing something like this. I'll take it apart first and I'll show you. I took a 3/8 inch and a half bolt and pushed it in here, and the shoulder of the bolt rests in here. I was going to put a washer in here for more comfort, but I didn't want it into the threads that much because it got a little loose, and this way the shoulder rests in there really nice and solid. And I had to take a nut and washer up in. Then, and this is the original arm, as you remember, and then this is the old piece that used to go right in the hole here, and I pressed out. Okay. Normally, if you got a new arm, you'd have a new piece. Plastic bushing would go in here. This slips over, locks in, pushes into your master cylinder. You're done. Adjust it right here. Very simple, but I couldn't get this piece. I'm waiting on it. I don't know if it's ever going to come in. So, went online, and I believe it was Ford, and I found what they call is a HEIM joint, and this is a 3/8, I believe, inch and a half. I believe it's 3/8 inch and a half hem joint, if that's pronouncing it right. And what I did is I drilled out the threads in here, took the old shaft and I cut right here and here, took this piece off, put it on the grinder, ground it down, and then so that it would slide into here like this. Then I got a 16th bolt, tapped it out so the bolt will screw in and it will lock down on the shaft, and then a lock on it as well. Okay, now what I'll do is once I get this piece all put together and I tighten it down and everything, and I'll stick it into the master cylinder, the new one. I believe the rods are about the same on the end, so they should both, it should work. And it's adjustable as well. Over it, slide the 3/8 joint over it like that, put another washer, and this is a lock nut, a 3/8 lock nut, and I will tighten it down to where it's just real snug, and then this arm will have plenty of play. It should work. Should be just fine. Probably better than waiting on a new arm. So there you have it. What I'm going to do next is replace bushings. Now this, you can see how this bushing is gone, completely gone on one side. This bushing is gone, and you can see how the pedal has been wearing back into. Get a picture of that. You can see how the shaft has pushed itself back into the housing here. Wants to rest back in there and not up here. Yep. What I'm going to do with that yet, but I do know I'm going to take the rest of this apart. Okay, I'll be back. Alrighty then. Okay, I decided to fill in this worn spot with some JB Weld. I put some duct tape, Gorilla tape on that side, and again on this side, and then I proceeded to fill in the gap between them. And what I will do next is I will take a Dremel grinder or a file or whatever and get this down and make it as round as I possibly can, and using the bushing to fit in there, I will have a new hole. Anyway, JB Weld is wonderful stuff. It has about 4,000 pound compression PSI strength. So between this and the bushing, it should be fine for a long time. So I'm going to get started on that grinding process now. Okay, here's the hole all Dremel tooled out. Okay, the new bushings are in. They're here, 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 and here. The bolt is installed, waiting for the rod to be hooked up. The spring is back on the assembly. To compress the spring, I put it in a vise, and I tied some wire around it, and then put it back in and cut the wires. I believe one might be able to tie the wires if you get some good wire and twist it on each side. The spring may compress by itself, I'm not sure. I popped it out with a screwdriver and compressed it with a vise. So now it's ready. This assembly is ready to go back into the truck under the dash, and that's what I'm going to do next. Put this pedal assembly back in without filming it. But that's not really a big issue right now, because I can show you what went first. When I put the pedal assembly up, I needed to bolt the vacuum booster to the assembly to hold the assembly up. Actually, the 4 bolts here, there's 2 here and then top there, they hold the assembly in place. And once I did that, then I went over to here and I installed the connecting rod. But at first I had to put the brake booster and the master cylinder for the clutch are both pushed through the firewall, and then nuts hold them firewall, but the brake assembly actually holds the pedal assembly up. Okay, now I got that all together, and then I reinstalled the brake switch, and I also installed the clutch interlock switch. Okay, the clutch interlock switch has a little screw which goes through it and holds the complete switch to the pedal. But anyway, there's the screw. And once you take that out, it allows the assembly to flop down where you can get to the assemble it from the pedal fairly easily, which is, and it's not a hard job at all. Now, the steering column, which was taken completely out, but first had to be dropped down, I had removed these 2 bolts here and these 2 bolts here. Well, you don't have to do that. Bolt right here and another one here. Take those out, column will lay down onto the seat. And on top of the steering column is the ignition switch and its connector, and then the I believe the dash gauges and all the instrumentation connector too. Fairly easy to get to. Once it's laying down on the seat, there's really no issue there. Okay, so when I put the steering column back up, I use these 2 bolts here to hold it, to mount it, and then it has in the front here this piece of big blocks of firewall and all, and there's I believe about 5, maybe 6 bolts that go through the firewall actually and hold this in place even more, and the bolts go around underneath this, which I put back together and all the way up, and they're fairly easy to get to as well. Now under the hood, now in order to get the pedal assembly off, you need to take the master cylinder loose. There's a bolt here. This is the brake master cylinder. There's another bolt here. And then I take this hose loose, but I took it loose over at the intake portion, because when you play with these little plastic pieces, sometimes the ear has a tendency to break off, then you got to buy this whole new part. So it's much easier to work at this hose with the metal connection at the other end. And so I just pulled the master cylinder back, tied it to a hose. It just hangs there, very nice. And it leaves the brake booster real easy to get to and when you take it loose under the dash, you just pull it. Very simple. Make sure you the rod to the pedal though, which I already discussed. Now, this is the clutch master cylinder, and it comes loose from the inside and just pulls back. And I tied it back to one of these hoses with a twist tie. A plastic tie. Okay, this is the first test drive. This truck's been sitting for maybe 8 months. So I'm going to go slow with it around the yard. It does need some wheel cylinders leaking. So, whoa. Okay, that was first gear. she's ready to go too. Maybe I'll start off in a second. I killed it. It does have some brakes, not much. Kind of lugging it along. Well, I next need to put the rest of the dash back together and get started on that rear wheel cylinder. So this is Steve from AZ saying bye for now.